Hello from North Carolina. I feel like I finally got the technical issues down. So welcome everybody who is joining. This is our lucky seventh live session. Our plan is to go live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I share industry news from the previous week. If you are team live or team replay, please drop a comment below, just so we know that you are here and joining us. And please share any questions that you might have. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rosalinda Cruz. I'm the founder and chief business development officer of the ACEWOR Collective, where we help underrepresented leaders in fashion with strategic planning and advising. Our mission is to support a more diverse and inclusive, sustainable fashion industry by filling in the leadership and ownership gaps within the apparel supply chain. So, these are still new, right? This is only my seventh live session. And really what I'm trying to do in these live sessions is be honest, right? I'm trying to reconcile my love for fashion and retail with my values around sustainability and diversity and inclusion. I'm really trying to advocate for supply change and raise buyer awareness at the same time. So in these lives, I kind of have a little bit of a rough agenda because I love agendas that I go through. So typically in our time together, I touch on North Carolina news, product, service, workforce, any sort of epiphanies that have happened. And then I also have a segment which I call the green carpet. For those of you, I'm going to be sharing a lot of information. I can't remember if I set my timer here, so I'm just going to put my head down. I did. We're good. We're good. So I share a lot of information in here. If you are interested in taking a deeper look at some of this information, please go to our website at aceworcollective.com and sign up for our list to get a copy of the show notes. And again, that's aceworcollective.com. I will be sure to drop that link in the comment as well. And I guess we're going to get into it. So this is, I was feeling anxious this morning. I'm not going to lie. So what I do in preparation for these lives is as I'm going through my news feeds for the week, I kind of have a little note on my iPhone where I either add links, notes, and kind of put them in their appropriate category, right? Whether it's industry news, North Carolina news, product, service, workforce, what have you. At the time, I usually add some of my thoughts, but before I go live, I kind of clean up my notes. I don't try to polish things too much because, like I said, I want to be honest about, my thought process and emotions, feelings, what have you, live, right, with you guys. And so before the lives, I kind of, put them into notes so that I can kind of go through things with a bit of fluidity, right? And as I was going through those notes and putting things together, I just started feeling really anxious because there's some heavy stuff happening, which is what I'm always trying to reconcile. Right. So we'll get into that. But in any case, let's get into it. So apologies for that bit of a ramble there. And North Carolina news. So there is an exhibit that is happening. It's called Innovation in Blue, and it's on display through March of 2022. And it is at Revolution Mill in Greensboro, North Carolina. And essentially, what this display is going to do is take you through a moment in denim history, which occurred at the White Oak Mill over 100 years ago, which led to the development of American blue jeans. So you can go to wolfdenim.org/exhibit to get more information on that for those of you who are in North Carolina. And for those of you who aren't, visit their website. There's a lot of really, really great information there. And then in other North Carolina news, yesterday, Governor Roy Cooper announced a landmark economic development project with Toyota Motor Corporation. So they are actually going to be building a global vehicle manufacturing center here, which is a $1.2 billion investment. And essentially, they are going to be building electric vehicles here in Randolph County. So that is really exciting. I can't even go into all of the projects partners. The list was very, very long, but essentially that's going to create over 1,700 new jobs in the triad, which is great. Which is the triad is sort of the metro region that's centered around Greensboro, whereas the triangle is more centered around Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. So in any case, also Black Farmers Market, which is a vital part of our community. They are taking applications for the next season's farmers market, and their application process is open through January 1st. Woo, now for the heavy stuff. Okay, so BOF, which is the Business of Fashion, and one of my go-to news sources. They actually released the State of Fashion 2022, which is essentially a 73-page report on the state of fashion. I kind of went through it fairly quickly. I have not gone through the entire 73-page report, but I am actually looking forward to doing that. They partner with McKinney on creating this report, along with a couple of other reputable organizations. And they are reporting that 15% of fashion executives expect to raise prices by 10% this year due to strains on the supply chain. So that was one bit of information that was pulled from that report. It's interesting because I have been talking with a lot of people over the last several weeks and thinking that it might be like interesting. Maybe it's just like the retail fashion nerd in me that thinks this is interesting. But I think that it would be pretty cool to have a discussion group around some of the reports that have been coming out. I feel like there is a limited number of safe spaces where you can have open and honest conversations around what's happening in the industry, and I think that it would be great to have, a group of experts from a cross section of the industry come together and kind of dive into some of these reports. And this would be a great one to do that around. In other industry news, Black Friday, Cyber Monday was a letdown, according to Edited actually just released a report on that, but they saw sales dropping 1.4% year over year on Cyber Monday, and seeing a trend just amongst all brands where there was less discounting. happening, which I think that, along with the strains on the supply chain and just the change in consumer behavior in general, all led to that decline in sales. So that was interesting. I'm going to take a sip of water. I feel like I can't go through these lives without taking a couple sips of water. So I'm going to do that. And I'm back. Okay, so also in industry news, VF Corporation announced that they are going to eliminate single-use plastic by 2025. And I would say when you think about single-use plastics, think about all those like poly bags that your product comes in, hangers, that sort of thing. Although I suppose you could argue that hangers aren't necessarily single use, but I'm always just kind of shocked and bothered by the amount of packaging that exists in consumer products. And I understand that you want to keep the product safe so that it ends up, when it ends up in consumers' hands, it's not damaged. But some of it feels really, really excessive. So I'd like to see some innovation around that. Although Eco Enclose has some really, really great packaging, and I feel like they just released a new product. But in any case, I digress. But VF Corporation owns North Face, Vans, Timberland, Smartwool, Kipling, just to name a few of their brands. They were actually, from 1998 until 2019, were headquartered in Greensboro, North Carolina. They're now headquartered in Denver, Colorado. So that's another fun fact. Slow Factory Institute, they actually made an announcement last week that they are going to be opening a climate school in Brooklyn. And they are actually doing what they're calling a brick by brick fundraiser. So $250 will get your name on a brick. The target opening date for the Institute is fall of 2022. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Slow Factory, it is a 501c3 nonprofit. They are an education institute, as well as an independent research lab, a regenerative design incubator. And I believe one of their primary funders is actually Adidas, which I only learned maybe in the last like 6 months or so. So I thought that was interesting. And interesting because, let's be honest, like Adidas has showed up on the naughty list a lot of times. And Slow Factory, I feel like, has done a really, really incredible job of educating a variety of people, from consumers to professionals, and really telling the truth behind what's happening in the industry and what the challenges are, from climate change to cultural appropriations. And they also promote an environment of inclusivity and a bunch of really great stuff. So I thought that it was really interesting that, a brand who, again, here's where the conflict is, right? I mean, Adidas, I feel like, has done some really, really incredible things in terms of product innovation around sustainability. I mean, they did a sneaker that was like made out of ocean plastics. Their partnership with Stella McCartney. Yet they still end up on the naughty list, right? They were, their names showed up repeatedly on the pay up list. yet they are, a primary sponsor of the slow factory. So again, this is, where these conflicts come into play. So, all right. In any case, I'm actually going to see if this works this time here. I'm going to see if we can do this. All right. Sorry for the side eyes. I am going to, is this going to work? Can this work? Let's see. Shift 8. No. No. Well, doggone it, it's not going to work. All right. That's okay. We're going to stay here. I wanted to, this is where we get to the heavy stuff, right? So in product news, there was another report that came out, which is called Wandering Cotton, and how the Xinjiang cotton is obscured in international supply chains. So this report came from the Helena Kennedy Center for International Justice at the Sheffield Hallam University, which is a leading center for social justice and human rights research. It was an 80-page report. And again, I didn't go through all of it. I went through, and I'm getting emotional. So, all right. It was an 80-page report. I went through it at a glance because, again, I kind of read the clip notes and I wanted to do my due diligence and make sure that, a lot of this information was verifiable. Again, I didn't read the whole report, but from what I saw, they did their due diligence. And essentially, what they do is they talk about, and I'm going to read this from the report, and I was hoping that I could do my screen share with you guys. But so they found that while the United States remains the largest consumer of finished apparel from China, the top destinations in terms of both value and weight from China exports of raw cotton, yarn, and fabric are Bangladesh, Vietnam, Philippines, Hong Kong, Indonesia, and Cambodia. And these countries account for 52% of exports, again, by value and weight of semi-finished cotton goods exported from China. And essentially what happens, and for those of you who don't know, the Xinjiang, and I'm sorry, my pronunciation's not on par, but is the region where the cotton, the Uyghur cotton, which is linked to forced labor and stuff, is coming from. And essentially what this report has done is sort of trace how that ends up basically in the hands of consumer by tracing how it moves, how the cotton moves, right, from that region to mainland Chinese factories, to these international intermediaries, which are in the countries that I just mentioned earlier. And these intermediaries serve international brands, right? So then the product, is produced for these international brands and then makes it into the hands of consumers. And what they did is they actually cited 150 brands that are using these intermediaries. And it was really, it was disappointing to see some of the names on the list, right? It was disappointing. And again, I had a lot of conflicting feelings around it, right? There were some brands on there that were, again, the usual suspects because they're usually on the naughty list. But then there is also, some brands that are actually almost the models for, responsibility in terms of brands. And sustainability. I feel like a lot of times they are the gold standards. I won't name names, but one of them starts with a P and rhymes with Patagonia. Yes. So I will, if you're interested in that report, again, I will share that in the show notes. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that just from my understanding, right, of how supply chains work, that even though these brands, right, are using these intermediaries, it doesn't always mean that they are sourcing all of their product through this. So one of the things that that this report cited is that they did reach out to, you know, all of these brands prior to the report being released and didn't get a response from these brands. So there may be, right, instances where they are using these intermediaries and they aren't necessarily using cotton that's sourced through these intermediaries. And there are probably a lot of brands that are. But one of the things that this report does is actually recommend 7 due diligence principles, which are applicability, traceability, transparency, accessibility, accountability, liability, and enforceability. And again, if you go into that report, it goes into more detail around that. Heavy stuff. It's heavy stuff. And in lighter news, right, gift guides, I talked about how you know, the theme sort of for this season. And one of the things that I want to make sure that I'm touching on is this concept of buying better. And this week, a brand that I follow on social media actually talked about a company called Stockpile, which actually allows you, and I think it's the only company that does this, but allows you to gift stocks in the form of gift cards. And you can even give, right, these stock gift cards to children, right? So you can actually teach them how to have a healthy relationship with money at a young age and how to manage money and watch their money grow and learn about compound interest and all of that stuff. So yay for that. And again, I feel like this is like one of those gifts that keeps on giving. So I wanted to put a plug in for that. In service news, and we are kind of getting to our half-hour mark here. But in service news, one of the things that I have seen more in the last 2 years, and is something that I heavily encouraged in, you know, a lot of the workshops that I did in early 2020, but this concept around conscious coupling. There, say that 5 times. And it is really this concept where you are able to partner with another brand or business and sort of share some of the burden of being in business, whether it is rent, sharing the burden of rent, marketing. But really what is really great about this conscious coupling concept is you're actually serving your customers' needs. So this kind of shows up in trunk shows, pop-up shops, markets, you know, food truck rodeos and that sort of thing. And we've been seeing a lot of that this holiday shopping season. And one of the things that I really, really enjoy about that is that it's really encouraging a lot of shop local and shop small. So yay to conscious coupling. Workforce news. Ugh. Workforce news. So, again, I don't know if this is just my algorithm, but there was a trend that was happening on TikTok, and it was a hashtag that I think even made it through to some of the other social media channels, but it was called Retail Made Me Do It. And it really highlighted the not so pretty side of retail. I'm going to do that. Um, one of the things, obviously, I've been in the industry for 30 years, 30 plus years at this point. I have a lot of deep connections with people in all areas of retail. But one of the things that I found really, really shocking is that a lot of retail stores are are being held to 2019 numbers. So when you think about goals, whether they're daily, weekly, monthly sales goals, they're being held accountable to pre-pandemic numbers, which is not good. I mean, I think that that is a nice kind of stretch goal to be able to have, and really encouraging people to be able to get back to where we used to be, right? But the reality is that shit's different. Things have changed. And one of the things that really concerns me around holding people accountable to, sorry, as these text messages come through, holding people accountable to these 2020 numbers is that it doesn't always set them up for success, right? Sometimes it feels like that is absolutely unattainable, and has a negative impact on your employees' sort of mental well-being. So think about that, especially as we are already experiencing a tremendous strain on the workforce, especially with our retail employees. The other thing that I saw that was trending last week on social media was there were several posts that actually we're talking about the absurd conditions that people were being forced to come into work um, uh, in retail environments, right? And they talked about poor management and poor leadership, and how business always takes priority over the person. And there were thousands and thousands of posts, and anybody who's, even had a little bit of connection to the retail industry knows that they're notorious for their toxic work environments, right? I am lucky in that I have been able to work in some incredibly healthy and supportive retail environments. But some of the stories were I got into a car accident on my way to work, and my manager told me I needed to come in. My, loved one was on their deathbed. I asked to leave, and I was told I needed to finish my shift. I mean, these are just some of the examples, and this is stuff that's still happening today. And it just, to me, screams for the need for leadership development within retail stores, right? So I wanted to share that. Again, I know that we are kind of getting closer to that half hour mark, which I try to stick to, but we are I didn't really see any epiphanies this week, so I don't really have anything to share in that category. Maybe if I had some time to think a little bit more about it, I would have had some. But we're at the green carpet. So I can't remember if I even mentioned this at the beginning of the segment, but the green carpet is really where I take a deeper dive into brands, concept, processes, what have you, that are being called to the proverbial carpet, right? And green representing sustainability. So that's why we call it the green carpet here. But there are ethical dilemmas that are present in the fashion industry, whether it is the elitism, the siloed conversation between, academia, industry, experts, scholars versus consumers. I mean, the list goes on and on. But again, even as I was like sharing some of what was happening, I feel like I was really honest about like some of the conflict that I was personally having, right? And how do I reconcile that? One of the things that for people who know me personally, know that empathy is my superpower. I am a talker, but I'm also a listener. And one of the things that I try to do when I'm listening is listen for understanding, right? And listening for understanding so that we can have open dialogue and really discuss what solutions are possible. And so I actually wanted to mention that I'm going to take another sip of my water. How about that? So I wanted to mention that again, for those of you who know me, know that I love NPR. I like the weekends. I feel like that's all I do is listen to NPR or an audiobook as I'm putzing through the house and doing some of those home errands. In any case, I this weekend I was listening to NPR per usual. And in particular, there was a segment on TED Radio where I actually got to listen to Professor Loretta Ross, who is a professor at Smith College, which those of you who know me know that I have ties to Massachusetts. I was born in Northampton. My mom actually got her master's at Smith College. And I have a lot of other friends and family who have connections to that area and also Smith College. In any case, she talked about call out culture, right? And the difference between calling people out and calling people in, right? And I'm going to totally butcher this, but my basic takeaway from that was, right, when you call people out, which is what's happening a lot, you actually aren't inviting them in for conversation. You aren't really setting the conditions for dialogue or solutions to take place. And it really kind of gave me pause. And when I think about, right, what is happening in the fashion industry and even in sustainable fashion, right? I mean, in sustainable fashion, there is a lot of there's a lot of work, right, around the environmental aspect, which is super, super important. I think that it's really important. But really, when I thought about where I wanted to focus my work, I felt like I'm not an environmentalist. That's not. I need to stay in my lane, right, and talk about what I am good at, what I am an expert at, and that is really around this commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion around leadership and ownership, right? Um, the talk around environmentalism, I feel like you can't swing a cat without hitting 100 of them. But one of the things that I have been seeing is that it is a constant call out, right? I feel like there is a lot of finger wagging that's happening. And again, I would like to be able to see more of that calling in. I don't know what that looks like, to be perfectly honest, but I know that that is really what needs to happen. And that's the space that I want to be able to create, right? And you are going to see this practice of calling people in taking place live. And I hope that, that we can kind of like put a pin in this date and see how my engagement with brands and leaders sort of evolves as I work to call people in and really discuss, what solutions are possible. So, having said that, we are going to go into some of the topics around the green carpet. So there is a lot. Again, I don't know if it's my algorithm, but there was a lot of information in all of my feeds around the deforestation of the Amazon, and a tremendous amount of brands that are major fashion brands that are linked to the deforestation that's happening in the Amazon. Again, if you would like some points of reference, please sign up for the show notes and I would be happy to share them with you. Um, uh, Cultural appropriation. So this is something that is not new, but again, seeing a lot of this trending last week on social media, where brands are being called out for, especially luxury brands, around cultural appropriation, and they're being accused of taking West African and Congo symbols. And incorporating them into their designs without giving credit to these cultures and these communities. So that's another thing that's happening in the green carpet. Um, Pay Up. So Pay Up just announced last week that there are several brands, Victoria's Secret, Lane Bryant, Torrid, just to name a few, um, that owe $7.8 million to garment workers. And this is after the Brilliant Alliance factory shut down. And this was a factory that was based in Thailand. And it was actually found to be in violation of Thai labor laws. In reading some of the information around that, it wasn't clear if the shutdown of the factory was due to the lack of payment from these brands, but that's the conclusion that I came to. And I don't necessarily have the information to back that up, but Pay Up, in my experience, has done their due diligence. So when they say something, I believe it. Um, and In lighter news, Chanel is the butt of all the jokes on TikTok. So apparently, Chanel came out with a $825 advent calendar, which is filled with low value products. So apparently, the TikToker who started this trend has since been blocked by Chanel, and I shouldn't laugh, but I think it's funny. And that's just me being real. So we are officially past the half hour mark. Um, I want to thank everybody who joined us live, and also for those who will be joining us on the replay. Announcements. Next week, Tuesday, I am going to be releasing another newsletter. So if you have not signed up to receive our newsletters, please visit our website at asorcollective.com to sign up for our newsletter. Again, we also have a workshop that's taking place on December 16th, which is focused on 2022 planning, the easy next step to scaling your business. This is going to be a 60-minute virtual workshop where you're going to learn what steps you need to take to scale your business in 2022. And we are going to provide you with the tools and that you'll need to kind of cover the basics of strategic planning. And this is really geared to those who are leaders within the sustainable fashion industry, whether you are a founder or a leader of another type. And I found out that we were having some technical issues with the payment link. So that got resolved yesterday. So hopefully that you won't have any problems. But essentially, we are going to cover in that 60 minutes mindset shifts, setting a strategic objective, singular, not objectives, which is oftentimes what I find the challenge is around strategic planning. Too many objectives. Too many objectives. Setting and exceeding revenue goals, key industry happenings, patterns in your business, and best practices. We are going to be providing workshop materials, which includes 2022 leadership planner, which has a business development calendar and a 2022 planning calendar in there. Workshop's only $97, which I think is a steal. But again, if you are interested or know somebody who's interested in that, please go to our website, aceworkcollective.com, and please sign up. We are also offering equity pricing. I always reserve a select number of seats for equity pricing for those who price is a barrier to entry. So there's also a link for the equity pricing options in there. And if you are a brand company individual who would like to sponsor an attendee, please reach out to me, send me a message. We are definitely welcoming sponsors, so please feel free to do that if you are compelled to do so. And what else? Oh, I forgot. So I think some of you may have seen this announcement, but 1 million cups RTP, it's back. So we during the last couple of months, I feel like things were a little choppy. We were meeting about every other week, and it ended up impacting our attendance rate, but we're back to meeting weekly. And this Wednesday, tomorrow, I will actually be hosting the 1 million cups. I was going to call it a session, the 1 million cups community meeting. So I am going to, over the holiday season, I am going to, again, take a deeper look into sort of the evolution of, department stores and its impact on how we shop, regional markets, family-owned and small businesses. We're going to keep talking about quality over quantity and how loved clothes last, clutter-free gifts. I mean, stockpile, what a great idea. And how to support small and local businesses. Again, our mission is to support a more diverse and inclusive, sustainable fashion industry by filling in the leadership and ownership gaps in the apparel supply chain. Our mission is to advocate for supply change. If you are interested in helping us further our mission, or if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will see you here next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to give you a double wave because that's how happy I am. All right, guys. See you next week. Bye.